What's up, you absolutely wonderful Magento-loving friends of mine? Joseph here, coming at you with another practice test question from the beautiful Kansas City area. It's mostly sunny today, which is really nice, and it's a reasonable temperature, but that's beside the point. Let's talk about a practice test question and my answer for that question. As always, I love it when you come back with thoughts or suggestions as far as why you think something else might be right, or some nuance, provide some nuance to what I'm saying. I love those conversations, and again, it might just land you a chance to join me on Smash the Bug podcast. So let's take a look at this question here. The question is about integration tests, and let's see right here. You are excited about integration tests. Haha, said no one ever. Not really, actually. Once you get into integration tests, it's not addictive, but it's really cool. And have created your first one. Good for you. Of course, this is for a new model, so you have also created a data fixture to provide data to this integration test. That's kind of necessary. But you notice that every time you run the integration test, new rows are added. This is causing inconsistent results in the test. We got one. We got one of these questions. Keeping maintainability in mind, how do you prevent this problem? All right, so let's break this down. A couple things. First, this is talking about integration tests. If you have not ever written an integration test, we have a Ninja training video about this. Actually, a couple of in our Ninja training series about this on YouTube. Go over there, and while you're there, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like it as well. Like the videos as well. These integration tests are one of the best ways, in my experience. I wouldn't say it's the best way, but it's an outstanding and a solid way to reduce the technical debt that custom code brings. As you understand how to write these, it will change the way that you write code. And I am a huge fan of integration tests, but it does take some discipline to get in there and to consistently keep doing it. So as such, integration tests are very valuable to your tool belt as a developer. Now, when I talk about a data fixture, what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at the code here. Data fixtures are a mechanism of loading data in a very simple terms here, loading data into the database. So, for example, we have a whole bunch of data fixtures that are included in the core Magento code. So that's found in dev, test, integration, test suite, Magento, pick a folder, files, or underscore files. So here's the catalog. We have a product simple comes out of there. So basically spins up a product with tier prices, and there is a SKU here, simple. You can feel free to hard code that into your integration test as long as it depends, on this simple product, and drop it in there. Use a repository, a collection, whatever, to load up this information. Super simple, and it's quite easy to do. So this SKU right here is, well, once you load in this file, then it automatically spins up the product, which is super helpful and handy because chances are your integration tests at some point depend on a product, right? So this product is ready to be used. And it's not just this product. Like I see configurable products. There is some product attributes. Let's see here. Multi-store, simple out of stock. I mean, there's a whole bunch of permutations or varieties of these products. So makes your life a lot easier. We drop down to the sales directory. Same thing. We have orders that are loaded up, ready to roll. Order with tax, right? I mean, it's super simple. Now, one thing to note here is how do we include these in? And we're going to kind of talk about that in our answer, so I'm not going to spill too much of the beans here, but there is the typical way we would think of to do it is to actually use the include statement. Basically includes another PHP file. That's not necessarily the best way to do it, and that's where it kind of centers in on this keeping maintainability in mind. So let's jump in and take a look at the answers, and we'll determine what we believe to be the correct answer. So 3 options. Create a rollback data fixture and call this before the data fixture. You will notice that if you're familiar with the Magento data fixtures, there is definitely a few of these rollbacks. So we have an order with simple product, and it creates does this. Well, there's also a rollback. The idea is it kind of reverses it back. The question is keeping maintainability in mind for what we are talking about. is this rollback necessary? And well, yes. I mean, that this fulfills the answer. Fulfills the criteria for the question. So again, keeping maintainability in mind means that there could be at least 2 decent answers, if not 3 decent answers. So all that to say, we need to provide a good. This is an answer, but was it the best answer? Let's keep checking here. Number 2, switch to using the Magento data fixture annotation. What is this annotation? Well, this annotation we can find in the Magento core docs, and there's actually a number of annotations in here, and we'll be actually referencing this for the C because we talked about a Magento DB isolation annotation. So this one is, we can drop down here, Magento data fixture right here, points to a class, etc. So script file name, method name, etc., whatever. In my experience, this only works inside of this dev directory. So it only loads something instead as relative to this dev directory. So basically, if you want to load in one of these data fixtures, you would basically load in starting with Magento. So basically, you say Magento catalog _ files, whatever. So in my experience, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, I have not found a way to include any file in here. And one thing to note here, and this is where it becomes interesting. Let's jump in, and we're going to talk about C here real quick. Set the Magento DB isolation annotation. So as we look at this, so we see our B doesn't seem to be a possibility, but I would like to shed a little bit more light on B and C looking at the documentation here, and then we'll go look at the code here as well. So we have Magento DB isolation as well as Magento data fixture, and they're not right next to each other. So enables or disables database isolation. Let's make this a little bigger. Disabled by default unless you are using a Magento data fixture, in which case it's enabled by default. All data required for tests live during transaction only. Any test results won't be written to the database. So here's the key point: is that, and actually I had that backed out while I was talking there. So enables DB isolation, enable or disable. Enables or disables database isolation. It's disabled by default unless, and here's the key point, you are using the Magento data fixture, in which case it is enabled by default. So when using Magento data fixture, it is automatically rolled back. So basically, a transaction is begun before this runs, and then it is ended afterwards. So or it is rolled back afterwards. So basically, the data actually doesn't necessarily run, or it does not actually committed to the database. So as such, using the two pieces of information here, we can't use, again, that I'm aware of, and I haven't seen a way that we can do this. We cannot use Magento data fixture, but we can specify we can use Magento DB isolation when using these fixtures and they need to be rolled back. So instead of creating a rollback, I believe it is more maintainable to use Magento DB isolation to use that transaction that will be then rolled back later, and that will solve the problem. So that would be the answer to this question, in my opinion. And that answer would be set Magento DB isolation to be 1. Now, where do we set this information? This information will be set in, and I am pulling it up right here. We have Magento data fixture. So by default, the Magento DB isolation is enabled when Magento data fixture is used. But if we were to create or use our own, well, then we can add in the Magento DB isolation as well. And ultimately, if we are using a combination of Magento data fixture and one of ours, basically just include and whatever the path to fixture PHP, whatever we do there, that would be that will be also included in the transaction, the database isolation. So that is your practice test question answer for the week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to coming back to you with some more information next week.